We're Hasani and Danielle Pettiford, and we're a real couple with real problems who almost called it quits.
I was very frustrated. I became very disconnected, very jaded and cold.
We have 4 children, going on 20 years of marriage, and we practice what we preach.
Our mission, to change the way couples relate to one another and teach them the skills needed to improve the quality of their relationships. This is the Couples Academy Show.
Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hasani, and I'm here with you this morning to talk to you, as we do every single morning about this time, on relationships, love, life, commitment, fidelity, infidelity, all the things that lead to the crisis that we experience in our relationships. We're here to unpack it and to give you some fundamental principles to govern your life accordingly so that you can have the best relationship that you desire to have. Wherever you're dialing in from, we want to know who you are and where you're calling from. So whether it is somewhere in the United States, whether it's on the continent of Africa, in Asia, Europe, the Caribbean, South America, we want to know who you are so that we can acknowledge you. We're excited because we're going to talk about some things. In our Moving Forward group, we're talking about the power of forgiveness. And so because we're in the vein of that conversation, I came across a very interesting article that I think would be very enlightening to share about forgiveness and what that looks like. But before we get started, listen, quick update. As you know, the Last Chance Weekend was scheduled for this weekend. We're actually rescheduling it to next weekend. So rather than it being the 12th through the 14th, it's going to be the 19th through the 21st. The couples that are booked and ready to go felt that that was a better weekend for them. So it gives us a little bit more time. So if you are interested, if you're considering, wow, okay, I didn't have last week or this coming weekend available, but the following weekend I do, you have an opportunity to register. So make sure you reach out to us. We would love to serve you with a spirit of excellence as we help transform your relationship. For those of you who do not know about the Last Chance Weekend, we do it once a month where couples drive in, fly in from all over the country to experience an impactful 3-day experience that really helps to elevate their relationship. But also September 9th through the 11th, as you know, is the Unearthed Retreat. And so there's still space. We want you to register. Check this out, and we'll be right back after this quick announcement. Hey, before we get started, I just want to acknowledge all of the Couples Academy practitioners that take the time to tune in the morning. We appreciate your support. We thank you for how you make impact in the lives of others, for those Couples Academy ambassadors that are always, waving the banner of marital restoration, and you let them know about the impact that Couples Academy has had on your relationship. For all of you in the Moving Forward program that tune in for your daily dose, we acknowledge you. We see you. For all those existing clients that we have that do weekly sessions or intensives, but still check in to figure out how can we take this thing to the next level. We just want to honor the community. And for all of you who are new to the community, welcome. We're glad to have you. We're talking today about forgiveness. Now, interestingly enough, there have been many articles, many videos that have been created on why it is difficult to forgive, the reasons why people struggle to forgive. And I mean, there's no I mean, no matter where you go, you'll stumble into something like that. But I came across an interesting article that really began to explain, I think it was like 32 reasons why people forgive. There was a study that was done by the Adaptive Human Behavior and Physiology Department, and they began to unearth the reasons that people give for forgiving. And it was a cross section of individuals that they sought out. They sought out people who were dating, they sought out people who are in committed relationships, as well as those who are in marital relationships. And they discovered that regardless of their relational status, there was a commonality in terms of why they chose to forgive. Now, we're going to go through some of these here today, but it seems like it fit into four particular categories. There are four general categories that people fell into that contributed towards their reasoning to forgive. The first category was the reduced likelihood of future infidelity. Okay, so that was the basis of their forgiveness, the belief that it will not happen again. But the second category was based upon a dependency that they have on their partner. Okay, so the person who was unfaithful, right? The betrayed spouse in some way was dependent upon their partner, and that contributed to their reason to forgive. The third category was, and we've heard this before, children. When children are in play, that's a major contributing factor in terms of one's willingness to forgive. And then the fourth, the betrayed spouses or betrayed partners' own infidelity. Okay. So because I've done it, it creates more of a willingness to forgive you for your actions. And so those are the four categories, but there's a lot of depth in midst of it. And I want to take the time to go through these because I want to see, for all of the reasons that you have given yourself as to why you cannot. There are so many people that have chosen to and have been better for it. Now, there are many benefits, health benefits, emotional benefits, spiritual benefits, relational benefits of forgiving, but many people get caught up in the how. And as we always say, the how is really not even significant. How do you forget? You just do it. The bigger question is why. If you don't have a strong why for moving forward in forgiveness, you will build up a stronghold in your mind, which becomes a rationalization or justification for why you cannot do it. And so it's a mindset that prevents you from releasing the pain, from letting it go, from moving forward. And so the first step is getting in this mind and restructuring some of the thought patterns that you've engaged in that has made it almost impossible for you to be able to forgive. So I can give you these reasons that people have given to forgive, but if you still have a stronghold and a belief system that says you cannot and why you can't, it doesn't matter what this list says. You won't be able to adjust accordingly. But if you are open, if you're willing to change course, if you're willing to have a new interpretation of why things have happened, if you're willing to see things from a different perspective, then this is going to assist you. So let's go through this list. Number one, if you see he, that's simply because I didn't want to have he, she. So understand that both men and women are unfaithful in their relationship. And so even though you will see he here, we're applying these principles to both. So if he shows me that he's truly regretted it, I think that's a huge piece. There's a lot of individuals who are unfaithful and are just arrogant about it, right? They just have no remorse. They have no regret. Oftentimes they will justify why they did it. They will blame their spouse for their actions. And there's no accountability. There's no internal change. There's no nothing. And so how can you forgive someone who's not contrite? How do you forgive someone who doesn't see the error of their ways and has no type of emotion attached to what they've done? But for those who do demonstrate that legitimately, because you have to understand, some people who are unfaithful are stepping outside of their character. They're stepping outside of their normal nature, and they have fallen to such a low place that in their vulnerable state, they've done things that they regret. And oftentimes they're very vocal about how much they regret it. And when they come across in such a way that is genuine and sincere and believable, it makes it very possible for the betrayed partner to forgive their spouse, because they do believe that, you know what, I can't see him or her wanting to go down this path again. I truly believe them. I'm willing to forgive. Let's go to the second one. If he gives me a sound explanation, right? Not an excuse, right? But an explanation. Now, here's the challenge, because any reason you give, the receiver of this information can interpret it as just an excuse, because there is no legitimate reason. And that's true. There is no legitimate reason that one can give for cheating, right? Because no matter what was happening in the relationship, no matter what was happening inside of me, it didn't warrant my actions to be unfaithful. So even though that's true, there are always going to be circumstances, situations, environmental factors, internal struggles that an individual has that leads them in the direction. And it's important for the person who's engaged in the behavior to have an understanding as to what led to it, what contributed to it. Why? Because if they truly understand their why, if they truly can begin to connect the dots and understand how one thing led to another because they're reverse engineering it, it gives the betrayed spouse a sense of, wow, at least he's aware. At least she understood what led to these particular actions. And so it gives me hope and belief that that level of awareness can help this individual become more self-aware, build a wall of protection around oneself, right? Deal with those root issues that led to the affair, and it increases the probability of them no longer doing it again. We say this all the time. If you have no clue why you did it, what makes you think it won't happen again? Because you haven't gotten to the source, you haven't gotten to the root. But if there's a sound explanation, I think that significantly helps. Now, on the flip side, oftentimes we were just dealing with this with a couple of our couples. They said, you know, I struggle with understanding this affair. Now, oftentimes a person can't move forward because they simply don't understand it. And their inability to understand it oftentimes is predicated upon the betrayed partner's inability to articulate the why. And so if he or she understands the why, it helps the betrayed spouse to understand it a little bit better. And so this is where conversation comes into play, because sometimes in the beginning stages of the recovery process, you may not have that level of awareness, but it is through the process of counseling, through an intensive, through the Moving Forward program, where we begin to unpack some things, peel some levels back, give you sound understanding, perspective that you've never had. Then all of a sudden things become crystal clear. And so oftentimes it is not until several weeks or several months in does a person truly understand the why, and then they're able to give their spouse a sound explanation. And so providing that for your partner is almost like putting the puzzle pieces of a puzzle together. All the puzzle pieces fit in. Now I have the image of what this thing was supposed to be. Now I get it. I can begin to move forward. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's go to the next one. If he swears that he will not do it again. See, this is another thing. You know, a lot of times people, it's interesting when you ask a person, or when a betrayed spouse asks the unfaithful spouse, will they ever do it again? And there's no conviction. There's no adamant, like, absolutely never again. It's almost like, I'm going to try. I hope I don't do it again. I can't promise. None of that is encouraging. None of that gives a spouse confidence, belief, or faith in one's future. And so a part of your job is to, number one, believe that you won't, and share that level of conviction with your spouse. This is all tied into their ability to forgive. Because if you doubt your ability to be strong and overcome temptations, if you doubt your ability to be faithful, if you think that you will continue to be tempted and vulnerable to the circumstances or the environment you're in, what are you asking your spouse to sign up for? More of the same? So you're convincing them to stay for what? To experience this same issue again and again and again. But when you have conviction, and when you speak from purpose, and even if you don't know how you're going to do it, it doesn't matter. The how, once again, doesn't matter. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to figure out a way. I don't know how I'm going to turn this around, but it doesn't matter because my will and my determination will guarantee that this will never happen again. And when I can see the conviction in your eyes and hear it in your voice, it makes a partner a believer that this will not happen again. And doing that truly enhances their ability, their willingness to forgive. So I hope this is helping. Let's go to the next one. If he shows that he really wants to be with me. Now, one of the questions that often is asked is, well, did you love her? Well, do you love him? Is this who you want to be with? Is this who you want to spend the rest of your life with? And interestingly enough, overwhelmingly, when it comes to men in particular, men don't cheat because they want to leave. They're not cheating because they're looking for an alternative to their spouse to spend the rest of their life with. You know, we've talked about this before, but there's something called the dangerous partner profile. And the dangerous partner profile represents someone or something that you have an instant attraction for, but would never in a million years choose them as a life partner. In fact, if they became a life partner, the relationship probably would not work. And so oftentimes affair partners, generally speaking, don't do well as lifelong committed partners. Though there's a percentage of those who do, overwhelmingly, that's generally not the case. And when someone's in an affair, it's not because they want to leave the marriage. They don't need to have an affair to leave the marriage. If they want to leave the marriage, they'll just leave the marriage. And so usually this is an individual who's very selfish, self-centered, thinking about one's happiness. There's reasons why they're staying in the marriage. There's things that they're gaining or benefiting from. There would be a significant loss if you were no longer in their life, but they're trying to fulfill some type of, feeling or desire that they have for happiness or fulfillment that they feel they're not getting in the relationship. And so their attempt is to get the best from both worlds. And they realize that their world comes crashing down because it doesn't work. It's not sustainable, but never, ever, ever. In most cases, do they have a desire to leave their marriage? And so convincing them that they want to stay really helps a spouse because they're wondering, am I even worthy? Is this relationship even worth having? Is it just going to fizzle out and die in the end? What's the point in putting forth all this effort if it's not going to go anywhere? But when there's a conviction by a spouse that they want to be in this marriage and they're willing to do anything to restore the relationship, then guess what, folks? It can actually work. So these are some of the things. That are done. You're watching the Couples Academy show. We'll be right back after this quick announcement.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.
All right, you're watching the Couples Academy show. We're talking about the reasons why people forgive. Hopefully, these points are helping and giving some clarity, because maybe these are some of the things that you can begin to embrace that will help your ability to forgive your spouse. But let's go on down this list because there's a lot more to get to. This right here, I've heard this time and time again. I've seen this, and I think this is a powerful one. If he confesses it on his own, see, it lands differently when it comes from you as opposed to it coming out or being revealed in another way. You know, when it comes to the discovery of the affair, D-Day, oftentimes it is the affair partner, the mistress or the man, typically men don't do this, but typically the woman would, reaching out to the spouse and exposing their husband, right? Just so you know, this is what we've been doing. I just need you to, and maybe there's something that has happened in their affair relationship that has turned the affair partner off. And so now, you know what? You want to leave me? I'm burning this whole thing down. And so she may reveal to the wife, right? But if not that way, maybe the spouse discovers something, looking through text messages, looking through a tablet, looking through emails. Maybe they discover some letters. Maybe I don't know. There's maybe a friend comes to the spouse and says, "Listen, you know, I just want to let you know your husband is such and such." So somehow it comes to them, and it doesn't come through the spouse, and so the relationship ultimately ends. But even though it's over, and that's a good thing, it creates problems down the line because a spouse may feel like the only reason why it's over is because it got exposed. You didn't make the decision to end it. And so therefore it makes me feel some type of way. And it didn't come from you. And even when I came to you and had the evidence, I had the proof, I had the receipts, I had the pictures, I had the emails, I had everything that I needed, you still denied it. You still lied. You still gave false information. You still engaged in the trickle truth. And those type of things make it difficult to forgive because I don't believe that you are a different person. I believe you will continue to be the way you currently show up now, which makes it very difficult for me to forgive. But when someone willingly, voluntarily reveals to their spouse what they have done, whether it was just done, whether it was done some time ago, it lands different. The pain is still there. It still hurts. It's still a betrayal. But the fact that oftentimes a person has gone through a transformation and gotten to the point where they can reveal it is an awesome thing. We've had individuals who've come to us for individual counseling saying, "Listen, this is what I've done. I need to present it to my spouse. I just don't know how. I reached a place where I realized what I've done was traumatic and I want to save my marriage. And I know revealing this information is going to hurt and make things worse. And there's going to have to be a recovery process, but I love them enough to have to tell them the truth. God's been speaking to me. I can't sleep. I'm constantly haunted by what I've done. I've got to get it off of me." And so sometimes it's for their own selfish reasons, right? I just got to get rid of this thing. But sometimes it's for a altruistic reason. There's nothing that feels good about revealing it, but to have a relationship that's predicated upon a lie is not a healthy, firm foundation that's sustainable. Because even if the spouse doesn't know, it does create an intimacy issue where things quite aren't the same. And I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but something's just different. And eventually it comes out because what happens in the dark always comes out into the light. So if it's going to come out, it would be better to come out by the person who was engaged in that particular affair. And when it is done that way, even though the initial shock is there and the pain is there, it increases the probability of a partner's willingness to forgive because of how it was shared. So if that's you, if you've been engaged in something and you see that, you know what, this relationship needs to come to an end and I need to set things right with my spouse, reach out to us so that we can guide you through a process on how to effectively do that so that it lands well and contributes to your ultimate recovery process. All right, so let's go to the next one. Here's another one. If it was done for the first time, it was only done once, right? So for some, there wasn't a pattern of infidelity. This seems to be so off from who my spouse has always been. And so because of that, I have a willingness to forgive it because this is not in their character or in their nature. And that was one of the reasons that people gave to forgive. Here's another one. we've been together for many years. And I think this is a huge one because, if the relationship is new, we've only been dating for a couple of weeks, like, hey, let me cut my losses now. But if we have years into this relationship, we've traveled together, we've raised children together, we've done life together. It's almost like, even though we're two separate individuals, we've entered into a level of oneness, and kind of leaving you is almost like cutting my arm or my leg off and leaving it on the ground and walking away. Like, that's the level of impact that it has on me if this relationship were to end. I remember somebody gave an example that I heard once. If you took a wad of gum and stuck it into a carpet, right? These are two separate entities that are now being merged together. You take that gum, you stick it into some carpet, and then you try to take the gum away from the carpet. What happens is fabrics of the carpet will be ripped up into that gum. Pieces of the gum will be stuck in the carpet. When these two entities, these separate entities, come together, there's a oneness, there's a merging that takes place. And to leave the person behind is to leave a portion of yourself behind. And so that becomes the rationale when there's an affair and one has a desire to forgive. To now, in this relationship, because of this affair, it's almost like I'm ripping a part of myself away. Not only am I leaving my partner, a part of me is being left with my partner, and this oneness that we've built will allow us to overcome the pain that we've endured for this affair. And so that has been a contributing factor to one's willingness to forgive. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's go to the next one. If I believe that I led him with my actions to be unfaithful. Now, this is a tricky one. And I know a lot of people that may trigger them a little bit because they're like, what are you talking about? I contributed to their affair. Well, let's say this in another way, because I think what happens is, if these are the reasons that people are given to forgive, there's some insight in this. I think what happens is, initially, in the beginning, there's a shifting of blame. So the betrayed spouse oftentimes will blame the affair partner, meaning the spouse, for what they've done. It's your fault. Then there's a phase where they may blame the affair partner, right? The mistress or the man. It's their fault. They seduced you. But then that blame shift comes back around to self, where one begins to question, well, what did I do? Was I not enough? Did I not do? And so they begin to blame themselves. And it just becomes like this merry-go-round situation for quite some time, where the blame is being shifted until they get into some sound counsel. And what you begin to understand is that either A, there were some things happening within the person that led to their affair, or some things that were happening within the relationship, a relational dynamic that created a vulnerability for someone to make an independent decision to cheat. So in this case, maybe upon further discovery, both of them did things that contributed to the demise of the relationship. And I think that's what that means. That if there weren't these issues in the relationship, if I had not done these particular things, if we had not been going through these particular situations, maybe you would have been in a healthier space and would have made a better decision when faced with this opportunity. So it's not shifting blame and one taking on responsibility for their partner's actions, but they're realizing a possible contribution to the demise of the relationship. Does that make sense? You see the difference? So my actions didn't cause you to cheat. My actions impacted the relationship. And when I, as the the offender, was dealing with the pressures of the relationship, I made an independent decision to do this, right? So I think having that level of awareness, that level of maturity, happens when you're going through a process that can lead to the restoration of your relationship. There's so many more things that we could talk about in terms of the reasons why people forgive. I think it's worthy of continuing this conversation. Hopefully this was helpful. And if you are someone who's struggling with forgiveness, listen, there's a pathway to true forgiveness. It's forgiving oneself. It's forgiving your spouse. It's accepting forgiveness from God. There's a number of different things that you can do to embrace full, authentic, genuine forgiveness to bring your relationship to a much, much better place. Listen, you've been watching the Couples Academy Show. My name is Hasani. We'll see you tomorrow for another episode. Take care.